Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. I am very excited about this episode. Here with me today, I have Annalisa Abell out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Annalisa, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm definitely excited for this conversation. It's always nice when people can interview me and ask me questions. So it's a little bit different than financial flex. So I definitely enjoy it.
Definitely. So first, can you talk to us more about what your childhood was like and what you saw, or maybe what you didn't see that shaped your view of what it means to build wealth?
Interesting. So whenever I talk about my childhood experience, I think I always had a very interesting relationship with money. So I definitely would describe my upbringing as very humble beginnings, but I was able to see my parents work and improve our financial situation. So that was its own experience in itself. I was fortunate enough to be able to come from a two-parent household, which is awesome, to just have awesome parents, a mother and a father in my life. But, I feel like I'm at the point where I'm teaching them more about finances and how they can build their wealth a little bit more. So it's always interesting how the tables have turned. But for me, I just remember when I used to get allowance when I was younger, I would just save my money. I would just be a huge saver. And I don't know if that has something to do with my upbringing and not having everything that I wanted at that time, and just, keeping a pile of money to be in a position where at some point when I do want to buy something, I can buy it because I've been saving so much. But my financial journey probably started in 2018. So it was, again, I've always been a great saver. Even when I was in college, I was on scholarship. I got residuals. I put that in my savings account. When I got tax refunds, I would put those in my savings account. I would just save. At this point, I was doing no type of investing at all, just saving. Money is just stacking in your savings account. But I had moved to Northern Ohio, and then I was in a car accident. I just had several very expensive incidences happen in my life, back to back, in addition to lifestyle creep. So I don't know what happened. I just had $500 at the end of the year in my checking account, which I had never been in that position before because I had always saved my money. No matter how much money I had or I was making, whether it was only $10 an hour, I would always save my money. But at some point I had $500 in my bank account, and I was just like, this is not normal. I need to figure something out, snap out of it. So I just wrote down all of my goals. I was just doing a fast. I was doing no social media, which at the time I wasn't very big on social media. But I had stopped eating meat and stuff like that at that point too. That started my whole vegan journey too. But I was reading Think Grow Rich, and that it was a light bulb went off in my head. Oh, so we're hearing about stories, you're hearing about experiences of people who didn't necessarily inherit money, but they were making money, and they were creating their self-made millionaire financial foundation. And at that point, I was like, oh, I can do this, and then I just started researching and just figuring out how I can build my own personal wealth. So that started in 2018, and ever since then, I can't be stopped.
I like it. It's funny you mentioned Think and Grow Rich. I've read a portion of the book. I'm not done yet. I've kind of read it on and off, but it's a fantastic book. I definitely enjoyed it. Have you read Think and Grow Rich and A Black Choice?
Dennis Kimbro?
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
So yeah, but obviously both of them have some of the same methodologies, the same ideas, but I think it's very important as Black people to hear about that Black experience and what it's like to build wealth as a Black person. Because obviously for our communities, the process is going to look a lot different than people who are outside of our community. So I have read that book, and that's also a great recommendation to read that.
Definitely, for sure. Yeah, I like both of them. I think they're both really good. What I like is it shows kind of people's different journeys, but it focuses a lot on the mindset that people need to have, and I think that's very important. But that's good. That's good.
It's so important. Mindset, to me, mindset is everything. So I know we on Twitter, so I feel like have the same idea that, anything is possible. You can obtain anything as long as you truly set your mind to it, as cliche as that sound, but that's the reality of it. So I think people, especially people within my community. So a lot of times I'm going to talk about Black people because that's the community that I experience. But I think a lot of times we get in our own ways because we have that stagnant mindset where we don't feel like we can acquire real estate, where we don't feel like we can start that business and create this wealthy lifestyle, this financial for, the future and things like that. So mindset, I think, is definitely key.
For sure, for sure. Awesome. So, we know about your background now. We know about kind of your financial journey. How did you get into real estate, and what made you want? I know you house hack currently. So, how did that come together? Like, what made you want to buy a
Um,
property and do all those things?
I'm trying to think like what was that pivotal moment where I was just like, I gotta own real estate. Well, like in college, so after my freshman year, because we're not even gonna talk about dorm lifestyle, because that's just not for me. That was just
Did you
a
commute?
trip. No, not necessarily. I mean, I lived on, so my freshman year, I lived on campus. And then after that, I moved off campus, but it was only like a 10-minute drive. So, I mean, it was technically
Yeah.
almost walking distance. But I think the second place that I lived in was like a townhouse that me and three other girls lived in, but it was a really nice townhouse. And we all like paid like $400 each, with a total of $1,500 for rent. I'm just thinking from a business standpoint, like I can definitely do this. Like he's collecting all of this money, and this wasn't his only unit. So at that point, I began researching. So in college, probably my junior year of college, I started researching how to acquire multifamily units. And I don't even think I knew what the term house hacking was at the time. I'm just thinking like, I might as well live in a room, right? Or live in a space and rent out the other side. Like that just made sense to me. So I began to dig, and I was living in Kentucky at the time, which they didn't really have as many multifamily units as I would like to see. But then when I found out about Ohio, and I'm just like, it's like multifamily unit galore. It's like it's like a fourplex, a duplex, a triplex, which is awesome. So, I wrote down at that point, like after college, I began to say, okay, the money in my savings account is probably going to be a down payment for a real estate property, an investment property. And it made sense for me to house hack and live on the other side. I don't have children. So I think that's the best situation, because a lot of times when you find like these duplexes, they usually have maybe 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms max, depending on what area you live in. So realistically, it just made sense at the time that I am in my life to house hack. But I love everything about home ownership, just having your own space and not renting. I don't
Mhm.
know about, but I don't like paying extra money every month that's not going to make me money.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of rent to me was just like, I don't get it. Like, why do I don't like to waste money. And a lot of times these properties and these apartments that we're renting out of, they will increase the rent next year without renovating and putting anything into it. So I just had annoyance from that whole experience. So after I left Northern Ohio in 2019, what year is this? 2020, right? So in
Yeah.
2019, I left Northern Ohio. My brother was already living in Cincinnati, and I told myself, I was like, I am never renting again. I just told myself, I'm never renting again. And I was like, I know Cincinnati has more than enough multifamily units there. I
Hmm.
have to find something. So I actually lived with my brother for, this is my younger brother. I lived with him for 3 months. I lived with him for 3 months until I found my multifamily unit. And sacrifice is everything because they have
Yeah.
children. So those 3 months were definitely it was interesting. It was
Yeah.
definitely interesting because he has children and his now wife. We were all just living together. Luckily, they have the space to be able to help me. But I tell people, temporary sacrifice for a long-term gain. So those 3 months, and obviously I paid him. I paid my brother a
Mhm.
portion. I think I paid him like $300 to stay with him. But I was still able to stack my money as well as work with my realtor at the time to look for a multifamily unit that I liked, right? So I did find several multifamily units, but I had to find one that I felt comfortable living in.
Definitely. And real quick, where did you go to school?
Oh, so for my undergraduate degree, which is random, that I have a bachelor's in Spanish, hola, um, in University of Kentucky in Lexington,
Okay.
Kentucky. And I have a graduate degree in public administration with a focus in healthcare management. So my 9 to 5 currently is healthcare finance, and I got that from Morehead State University, which is also.
Nice, nice. What was it like going to the University of Kentucky? I'm like a big basketball fan, so that must have been an insane experience.
Yeah, I'm probably the worst person to ask.
Okay.
I will say, if I had to do college all over again, I would focus more on the actual social experience,
Okay.
academic experience. So there were games and experiences that I missed because I was studying.
Okay.
Because prior to me, I was on the pre-med track, and then I realized that wasn't for me. So I spent a lot of time studying, and so I'm the worst person to ask. But if I had to, I would go to more games, more parties, and more experiences.
Yeah.
And then, I do have the social aspect because I am Greek. So
got you. So you got something.
I still didn't go enough. I still didn't go to enough parties. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah, definitely. I feel awesome. So walk us through that purchase. Like, what did it look like? What was the search like?
Yes.
Numbers. All
okay. That. So, when I talk to my friends, I'm going to always encourage them to house hack and purchase a multifamily unit temporarily, at least a year, live in one side of it or one unit of the property. So for me, going through the search, I had wrote down and told my realtor, I was like, this is my needs. Obviously, I had already looked at units. I wasn't saying I need a pool in the background or anything like that. But I was like, the bathroom has to look nice. And I wanted a garage. So those were my two major things that I wanted. And I prefer the side-by-side units. A lot of times you'll see the duplexes, it's the top and the bottom situation. I just prefer like the side-by-side, almost like the townhouse model for myself. And and a fairly newer property is what I wanted. So I wrote all those things down, and I probably looked at 5 different multifamily units. And then, I said no to a lot of them due to the way that the bathroom looked. I'm not gonna lie. And not that the bathroom looked bad, it was just an older model. And I just wanted to be put in a space that I definitely felt comfortable in. So I worked with a realtor who was amazing, who had a background in investing property. So she was able to add to that experience. For me, especially as a first-time investor, I'm able to ask her questions about, being a landlord and the proper methods for being a landlord and being able to answer questions for my tenants. So, the whole I started probably looking for properties in May, and I closed in August.
Nice.
So, it was a decent time period. Obviously, there was different things like vacations and stuff that happened in between that time that probably delayed the experience, but it was a fairly smooth experience. And based on the research that I've done, a lot of multifamily units are usually like in older areas that, they don't always receive a lot of investment into within your city or your state. So there are grants out there that people can utilize to help reduce that cost for closing costs and things like that. So my down payment cost was a total of $3,600, which is very expensive, which was very inexpensive, which is very surprising to me because I was ready to put down a lot more than that for this investment. So I think I was able to apply like 2 different grants.
Wow.
And there were 2 grants that I was able to apply for the down payment cost. I utilized a conventional loan, and 30% was the total. And so my unit, it's 2-bedroom unit on each side, 1.5 bathroom, and it did come with the garage. Yay! Which has a wonderful large backyard, which I do not cut. I definitely hire someone for that. But it's been an awesome experience for me. No complaints. I was able to find a unit that was less than like 30 years old, which was great too. And it's in an amazing neighborhood. It's weird because of the neighborhoods, the buildings within my neighborhoods, they look like duplexes with their condos. So, but it's nice people in my neighborhood, so I appreciate them.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that you applied, you were able to use 2 grants towards the closing costs?
Mm-hmm. Got
it. And what kind of grants were they? Are they grants for buying property in a particular neighborhood? Like, how does it work?
So this was in my process when I was looking for a lender to work with. I was calling. So one, I wanted to support someone that was Black. So that was my first thing. So my realtor was Black, but I also wanted to find a lender that was Black as well. But my first question was just like, this is what I want to do. I want to find a multifamily unit, a duplex. Ideally, I would like to use some grants if they are available. And I feel like I went through three lenders, and then I ended up going with Chase, surprisingly, because they were the only ones that were really guaranteeing me, I have grant money that you can definitely use for this property. The other two was just like, we can see what we can do. But the thing about grant money is you either have it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's money that's allocated for a certain time period, and when it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
So the other vendors that I felt like were kind of giving me the runaway, I decided to call other areas. But luckily, I banked with Chase, so I ended up with Chase, and they were like, "There's this grant available for if you purchase property in a certain area within Cincinnati." And then there was also additional monies for you just for taking this quiz and becoming a landlord. And I was like, look, sign me up, give me all the so yeah, so I will say my experience with Chase was very, very smooth. So I will give them that.
That's dope. That's dope. I think, it's an interesting thing just to hear that you were able to find out about a lot of those grant opportunities. And, a lot of times people just say, I can't afford it. I shouldn't even go forth and try to see if I can buy a home or invest in a property. But, you asked around, you inquired to see what was out there, and, you were able to find out about grant opportunities. So I think it just speaks to just digging, trying to look for, how to make it work for you. So I think it's a very, very good thing to do there.
Definitely. Annalisa doesn't like to pay more for things that she doesn't have to. It's free money out there. I'm going to find a way to get it. So yeah, definitely do your research.
Definitely. So, so you got the property about a year ago. What was it like? Was there a tenant in the other side? Did you have to find somebody for the other side?
So yeah, there was a tenant on the other
Okay.
side, and she's still here. There's a family that's still there. Luckily, I haven't had any issues with the gap in payment, even through the pandemic and COVID-19. Luckily, I was consistently able to receive payment. We had conversations about, how are you doing right now? Are you good? Just trying to test the temperature of the water, see where we're going here. But no, it hasn't. It's been really a great experience overall. I think the only thing that I had to fix was like the AC unit, and I just called my insurance company and they sent somebody out. So I think a lot of times that people are afraid to like purchase homes because they're thinking about the maintenance costs associated with it. And I mean, truly, I've only called a maintenance person twice since I've been here. And it's minimal cost. It's minimal cost compared to the monthly rent that I'm able to get every month. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So seems like you've had a pretty smooth experience so far as a first-time landlord.
I don't want to jinx it, but yeah, it's been a fairly smooth experience. When I first purchased my duplex, I didn't know everything, but I knew I knew that I didn't want to pay rent anymore. I knew that more than anything. So it just made sense to acquire a multifamily unit. But it's been pretty smooth. Yeah, it's been a pretty smooth ride for the most part. Yeah.
Definitely. So as you were going through the experience, the purchase process and things, did you have any fears or any apprehension just about, is this the right thing to do? Like, how do I figure out which property to choose? Like, did you go through any challenging moments during the process?
Yes.
Tell us about those.
So there was one unit. There was one unit. Let me just tell people out there looking for homes. Those pictures are deceiving. Okay, the pictures put on realtor.com, Zillow, all of those things, they can be very deceiving. Go to the unit. And the only reason I say that is because my friend who moved to Cincinnati, she was living in Los Angeles at the time, and she wanted to purchase a multifamily unit to live into it. She wasn't able to really see and touch the unit she'd be living in person. All of it was via FaceTime. But my advice is, if you can, go see the unit, because those pictures are definitely deceiving. So there was one unit I went to go see. The pictures looked beautiful online. When I went inside that property, it was like a huge hole in the ceiling. It was like leaking in the basement. And then, being a novice in all of this, I went based off the pictures online. And it was very cheap. It was a very inexpensive price. That should have been a red flag, right? Because it was. And I had put like an offer in, just basically saying, I want this for like however much money. And then after I seen it, I immediately thought that, oh no, I don't want this anymore. So I thought I was already locked in because I had made an offer on it, but obviously it was contingent on actually seeing the property and things like that. But there was a fear there. But then when I actually moved into my own place and the property that I actually decided to move forward with, I think I was more excited that I wasn't going to be living with my brother anymore and that I was going to have my own space than the actual fear that I was experiencing. Um, yeah, because I mean, luckily I put myself in a position that, even if my tenants weren't here, I could still afford the mortgage. So there wasn't a lot of fear there, but I think I was more excited to have my own space more than anything. So yeah.
Definitely, definitely. What I appreciate about your story is that, you know, you and this is like I really try to hammer this home to people. It's like know enough to get to the finish line. You don't need to know everything. It's and what I can tell
Exactly.
is that you knew enough to just keep moving along. There's things you learned as you moved in, as you became the landlord, but you just kind of kept your eye on the goal, on moving forward and just finishing it out once you found a property that you wanted to move into. So I think it's great that you had that mentality because a lot of people try to have every single detail. And you do need, there's a level of due diligence you do need to do, but I feel like some people kind of outsmart themselves. They want to
Mm-hmm.
overanalyze everything and not move forward and not take action. So I think it's good that, you went with the amount of information you needed to go to the next step, which I think is great.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like, you will never know how well it's going to work until you start today. Like, people spend so much time analyzing data, analyzing this situation, and talking about the what if, and you put yourself in this bubble of fear. And then years later, you still haven't launched that business, that idea, invested in real estate. And I quite frankly don't have energy for people like that. And like, so are you going to do it today? Or are you going to do it tomorrow? What are we waiting for? I don't have the energy for that. So yeah, so for me, again, I don't claim that I knew every single thing about real estate. Um, and I'm a hands-on learner too. So it was important for me to put myself in that situation where I was able to grow and learn, because you can only read so much before you need to actually experience those things to happen.
Definitely. I agree. I agree 100%. A lot of uh, some people are too smart for their own good. This is just this
Mm-hmm.
conversation. This conversation just reminded me of that. You can have like the most book smart person, but because they're so book smart, they feel like everything has to be in a certain way. Everything they engage in, every business or every property it has to be a certain way. There's no way around it. There's no like creative
Mm-hmm.
strategies. Like, it has, you know what I'm saying? Like some people
Yeah.
are so smart that they don't do anything. Like
Oh,
their
I know a lot of
smarts
people like
prevent
that.
them, their smarts prevent them from taking action on buying property,
Yep,
on
and going
starting
to
a
the next
business.
level.
And it's like, actually, the people who win are the ones who take the most action, imperfect action, and just keep getting better and better. So I'm sure once you get to the next property, you're gonna do it even better than you did this one because you just keep going and going and going and just figuring stuff out along the way. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, people are always like, oh, you're such an inspiration. You're such an inspiration. I'm going to tell you right now, the only difference between me and you is that I execute. All I do is write things down, and I just, I'm so secure in myself that I'm not waiting to have other people's approval before I actually do something. So that's going to be the only difference in our experience is that I actually execute. So you can say you can do stuff so much, but until you actually put it into action, that's really the only important piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely, absolutely. What real estate wise, what's the future look like? What do you want to do
The
going
future
forward? Do you
look
want to
like
buy
it
more
looks like
properties?
I definitely want to expand my portfolio. I love everything about real estate. I love the idea of just helping people put people in homes. The whole idea of one day having my dream home, which I don't see that in my future anytime soon. So I will say the thing I do like about, one, when I tell people all the time, when you want to purchase a home, you can always sell it. That's always an option. You can always sell your property. So don't be so fearful and wanting to pull the plug to purchase any property, whether it's a single family or a multifamily unit. I like the idea of the multifamily unit because I don't plan on being in Cincinnati forever. So I do have the option to be able to move away and just rent out the other side. It's going to make me additional income. But ideally, I would like to expand my portfolio. I'm giving myself 2 years to purchase 2 additional properties before I actually decide to move to this area. It'll probably be somewhere in Ohio. I'm thinking probably when I find my properties, I would like to have a couple of fourplexes, but I'm open to have duplexes too, just depending on the price point and whatever makes sense. But yes, Annalisa will definitely be expanding her real estate portfolio. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely, I love to hear it. What's the Cincinnati market like, just from your perspective, from the time you've been there? Like, is it a growing city? This is the first time we've had a guest from
Yeah.
Cincinnati, so I'd love to hear just more about the city, more about the economy, and just what you've been able to see from your perspective since living there.
So Cincinnati, from a let's see, from my perspective, I don't feel like it's necessarily growing as rapidly as some of like the other cities near my. I mean, the Midwest is the Midwest. I will be surprised, like other areas that are nearby that are actually growing more. Like even Kentucky, like Lexington, Kentucky. I told you I lived there from a period of time. They're actually expanding and moving more. Like a lot of people are populated into that space, but it's very much so a college town. So you graduate college, and a lot of people just stay there, and find employment there. Cincinnati, from my perspective, it's not necessarily growing that rapidly. But I will say that I've learned from being on platforms and forums like Bigger Pockets and things like that, like investors are still looking at Cincinnati to purchase property in, whether they live here or not. So ideally, if you find a unit that week that you see online and you're speaking with a realtor, it's your best bet to put in an offer because they go super, super quick. Those multifamily units go super quick. So when I got my property, I sent it on realtor.com at like 6 a.m. At this point, I was waking up and looking for a house because I just can't. Move out of my brother's house. So, at like 6 a.m., I'm looking for a unit and I seen this property. I'm like, ooh, this looks perfect. So I send it over to my realtor. I leave work on my lunch break at noon, go view the property, have no complaints, put in an offer that day. And that's really how fast it had to go because honestly, I was asking them questions, the sellers questions, and they're just like, okay, we can go with somebody else. And I'm like, no, 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 I'll take it. So it really happens that fast. So when you find something you really like, you have to go for it. Because Cincinnati, there's a lot of multifamily units, but they go very, very quickly. So I will say that about Cincinnati. But I don't think it's necessarily growing. A lot of people, I think a lot of people, so let me just say this, a lot of people move here for work, but I don't think it's a place that people stay here for very long. Because you have Procter and Gamble here. I work for a very large healthcare system. I work for Bon Secours Mercy Health, and we have about over 40 hospitals across Ohio, Kentucky, New York, Richmond, South Carolina, all of those things. So there's that healthcare and probably some sort of business entity like Procter and Gamble is where people come to work and things like that. So I've met a handful of people in Cincinnati that aren't from Cincinnati, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool.
I think it's a good place to start for a lot of young professionals. But if you're looking for a social and fun professional space, I think there's other places in the United States that might be better suited for people. So I think people come here, they stay, they make their money, they leave, which is probably what I do. So yeah.
Definitely. That's pretty cool. I think the interesting thing is what I want to drive home to people as well. We have people have in their minds, what cities to invest in. And a lot of times people go to like the big popular cities that you see everywhere. But as you mentioned, like Cincinnati's still a pretty hot market. People may not know too much about it, but like you said, properties are going fast. Investors are coming in, buying things quickly. So I think another point I want to drive home is that it's okay to buy in a city that's not popular. That's honestly probably where the better opportunity is, as opposed to a market that's already hot, where everybody, publicly on the forums and all these places, where everyone's trying to scoop up properties. So, I think it's could be a potentially hidden gem, because when you think of Midwest, you think of the big cities in the Midwest, but, there seems to be quite a lot going on investment-wise in Cincinnati.
Yeah, and let me just for all my 20-something people out there, I just feel like I personally would not recommend you moving immediately to those poppin' cities right now from a financial standpoint, unless you're being guaranteed a certain salary point, just because a lot of times the things going on in that area are going to be very enticing for you to spend your money. So when I live in a place like Cincinnati, which is a very low cost of living compared to a lot of spaces, obviously like you're in New York and LA's, but even other places like Nashville, Tennessee, which is growing and becoming a lot more expensive, some of those, areas where people would describe as more like a social and party setting, those areas, they necessarily don't allow you to really stack your money like a Cincinnati, Ohio would. So me living in a lower cost of living place where I'm able to create a career experience, a work experience, grow my resume, engage with different people, just make a nice amount of money in a low cost point area I really think is going to set me up for the future, to be honest. So, I like my friend who moved from Los Angeles to Cincinnati, she's able to invest in a property. There's job opportunity for her in her career. So my advice and recommendation for people is don't just be stuck in your own area that you live in. Don't be afraid to move, to invest in other areas. Look at the job market, look at the cost to live in, and do the return on investment, do the math to figure out what is the best space for you to stay at. You don't have to move somewhere and stay there forever. You're not held captive there. So being able to expand your mind and figure out what works for best for you.
Definitely. Awesome. So I know you got a lot of other things going on, namely,
So
financial,
busy.
financial flex,
I'm
your
so
course.
busy.
So can you talk to us
Yes.
more about the other things you have going on?
Yes. So Annalisa is always doing something. I think my most tweeted tweet, and I started my Twitter like in May, I think, was that, I can't stop monetizing or thinking of ideas that I can't monetize. Like it literally can't turn it off. So Annalisa is always doing something. So my whole financial education journey, and getting out there to tell people about how to be better with their finances and be their own personal finance goals. That starts with Financial Flex. So it's currently IG lives that I have every 2 weeks with entrepreneurs, business owners, and careerists. And they give my viewers an opportunity to talk about their financial success. It's an opportunity to hear about their stories as well as ask questions about the services and products that those business owners offer. I'm a huge proponent of multiple sources of income. I don't know who told you that just having a 9 to 5 was the way to go, but I'm telling you right now, that's not it. So a lot of times I tell people, create multiple sources of income, figure out how you can monetize your gifts and your talents. So Financial Flex I enjoy Financial Flex. I get to have a conversation with people. I get to learn and just engage with my followers, which is amazing. And that's a growing platform. But also recently launched a course on how to become debt-free and keep your money in your pocket. And then obviously from a real estate perspective, you'll have the question come up about your debt to income ratio, right? So like when I was going through that process and the lender was asking me, how much do you have, how much do you owe in student loans? And I'm like, nothing. How much do you owe in your car loan? I'm like, nothing. And how much credit card debt you have? And I was like, nothing. And that's a really great feeling to be able to say that you have no debt, because it's very rare for a lot of people. A lot of Americans, average thousands of dollars in personal debt. And to be able to come to the table and say, I don't have that, that's going to impact your debt to income ratio, obviously, but also the amount that they will offer you to purchase your investment property in your home. So in my course, before we even start about talking about your debt-free journey, before we even get there, we're talking about your mindset. So I really broke down the course so that it's easy for people to understand, but how they can be successful in the journey. And I apply methodologies that I use that I think works well for others that I've worked with. So a lot of people follow Dave Ramsey when you think about becoming debt free. So one thing, if you work with Annalisa, one thing I won't do is strip you of all your luxuries in your life and say that you gotta eliminate all of this. You gotta eat like 1 meal a day. You're gonna be surviving on ramen noodles. Like, no, I'm not gonna tell you that, because I truly believe that life is about balance and you only get one life. So you have the option to increase your revenue or eliminate your expenses. And sis, if you're telling me that you have to get your nails done every 2 weeks, then go for it. You can do that. But I talk about how you can increase your income so that extra money that you're getting on a regular basis, you can pay towards your debt. So I really break it down in a very easy way in the course. It also comes with access to an exclusive debt-free community on Facebook, which is really picking up pace there. We're just talking about what our savings goals are, what are our September goals on paying off debt. And we're just really educating each other on different tools and things like that. So as this group grows and they pay off debt, I really want to have conversations with them about, you know, investing, how to make more money for yourself, and just really sticking to this wealth mindset, because obviously your debt-free journey, or any journey at that, it's continuous. It's not an end date to it. You just have to continue to maintain it. So yeah, I have Financial Flex. I have my course, and then I just established, I haven't had a true launch for it, but I'm already getting contracts for people to work with me. So I've created a virtual assistants and social media management company where I work with, and my team works with business owners to help them with the small details while they're focused on creating revenue and strategy to increase the revenue for your company. Because I know, you know, posting content and social media posts takes time, and I don't think people realize that.
So much
Especially,
time.
it takes a lot of time, especially if you want to engage with your followers. You want to post where it makes sense and how it aligns with your analytics. So I've created a company we're going to take all that hard work that you don't have to do, and you can focus on making money and all those kind of things. So that's called Elevated Assist. I will do an official launch sometime soon, but you know, Annalisa's busy, but I already have someone to work with me, so it's been amazing so far. And yeah, we just created multiple sources of income and increasing our monthly cash flow, you know. So yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it if I can think of it.
Killing it, killing it. Did it take you some time to get to a point where you didn't have any debt? Like, what was that like for you?
So for me, so when I started my financial journey, so I paid off my student loans, my car loans, and my credit card debt in a little over a year. And again, I was in Northern Ohio, a very rural area. So it would, I tell you, Cincinnati doesn't have that much to do. And let me back up for anybody that listens to this that's from Cincinnati, or any of my friends that listen to this. I'm not even a person that goes out that much. I don't even require any city to have a huge like club scene or anything like that. So let me go ahead and set that disclaimer out. You viewing in from Cincinnati, don't come from my head. But when I moved it to Lime, Ohio, Northern Ohio, it really wasn't much to do. So I just really wanted to focus on my financial goals. And again, I'm all about multiple sources of income. So I got a part-time job on top of my salary position. And luckily, this part-time job was grossing more money a month than my full-time job. And it only made, what do I do with this extra money? Pay down my debt. So I use the snowball effect. So I started paying down the smallest amount first. And then next thing you know, I'm like on my last payment, and I'm just like, hoorah, you know, yeah. So it was a very, it was a fun experience. I mean, you get those small wins. You feel good about yourself on paying on your debt. Because the reality of it is, you know, America is in $1 trillion of debt. Most Americans have a lot of debt, and they're not able to be that disciplined to do that. So I congratulate anyone who's, you know, taking the initiative to start a debt-free journey and working towards paying down those debt. Because a lot of people get overwhelmed with their debt and they try to ignore it. And of course, I think it's important to note that I do talk about good debt and bad debt. And debt that's going to make you money, and debt that's not going to make you money, because we're all about acquiring assets and reducing our liabilities and things that don't really make us money.
Definitely. Love it. Love it. Is there anything else you want to leave with the listeners? I mean, I'm inspired by this conversation because, you know, it's clear to see, you know, you're a very goal-oriented person, very intentional person. You know, you got the debt out the way, then you got the property, and then you started to grow your different businesses to help people do similar things. So I appreciate you coming on. It's been a really great interview. But is there anything else you want to drive home or leave with the listeners?
Yes, because I do also have free services too. So I'm all about helping people get to where they need to go. And I think sometimes people need that extra push and that extra motivation. I needed that extra push. If anybody knew me before 2020, you knew that I was never on social media. I think social media is a little bit weird, but from a business perspective, it works. So I need a little push. Someone basically said, you need to talk about finance related stuff on social media. And I was just like, who cared? Like, who would care what I have to say? Like, that's very weird for me. But my first live that I did in April was probably one of my most popular lives, and most people that I had on live at one time. And I've said this before, that it's probably two reasons why. One, people probably thought it was a glitch, like, why is Annalisa on live right now? It's very, very weird. But also, the first conversation was about becoming debt free, and a lot of people want to pay off a lot of their debt. But I also created, if you go to my Instagram page on Just Annalisa, I have a booking button on there. So people can have a 30-minute consultation call with me, and we can talk about your debt-free plan in 30 minutes. And then, or if you have a business idea, just like, hey, Annalisa, I'm thinking about doing this. I need somebody to talk to about it. What are your thoughts? And a lot of people that I've met with, they really have these great ideas. They just don't execute. And it's a little frustrating because, like, you can really monetize and just make a lot of passive income. But on top of that, you can make money being passionate, doing something you're passionate about. It doesn't make sense to me that so many people spend so much time focused on their 9-to-5, and they don't even like it. Like, they don't even enjoy it a little bit. They don't even want to monetize their passion. So that's super weird. But you can set up a 30-minute consultation call with me. We can talk about your business idea. We can brainstorm on different ways that you can monetize your passions and things like that. So I do offer that service. So if they go to my Instagram page, they can click that link, and we can have conversations about that. But I think that's it.
For sure. And where can people find you? On what can you share with us your social media handles?
So Just Annalisa on Instagram and Twitter. And that's JUST, and then my name, ANNALISA, on Instagram and Twitter. I'm also on Facebook. Facebook is also very, very weird for me. So if you send, is it a direct, what is it called on Facebook? Messenger? Like when they send you a message?
I guess it's kind of like a DM.
Okay, don't send me a DM on Facebook. I will never see it. Don't contact me. I'm probably spend most of my time on Instagram. So if you look on Instagram, I do have my business emails connected to my page. So that's the best way to probably contact me, via email, or you can probably send me a DM on Instagram. Like, just don't be weird. It just needs to be business related, because I ignore people. But yeah, probably Instagram or Twitter would probably be the best way to find me.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yes, it's been great. Thank you for having me. The next time I come on here, I want to have like more properties, and I can tell people about the whole experience. And by then, I probably won't even be in Cincinnati anymore. So
definitely, we got to do a part 2 for sure.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. I look forward to hearing from you all soon.